How do you get onto the radio? How do you get a record contract? How do I lay out an album project? What is my favorite album of all time? Stick around, my friends, because today I'm answering some of your questions about me, my music, the music industry, and being an independent artist. Let's blast off and get started. JM in your universe. Konnichiwa, friends, I'm Jonathan Miller, and welcome back to Jonathan Miller Music, helping you become a better indie artist. I make electronic dance pop music, and every Wednesday on this channel, I'm helping others take their music to level 2. If that sounds good, consider subscribing and ringing the notification bell. If not, why not? I'm fun. Okay, maybe I'm a little boring. I talk a lot, and I've got that weird sound quality to my voice that's just a little bit annoying. You know, come to think of it, I don't know why you would want to subscribe. Subscribe and help the algorithm? Think about that. Alright, so today I'm doing my first official Q&A video on this channel. I'm really excited about it. I asked you guys on TikTok, on Instagram, and even here on YouTube, if you had any questions about me or my music or the music industry, being an independent artist, whatever, that you would like me to answer in a little bit of a longer format. And I got way more questions than I thought I was gonna get. So thank you to everybody who submitted something. I couldn't get to everybody's question, of course, and there were some repeats, so I decided to choose one of those questions to kind of represent all versions of it. But anyway, with that being said, let's just jump right in. One Eye Dreaming wants to know, how do you usually lay out an album project? Do you plan everything out or just ride along? So I always plan everything out. My family and friends always kind of get a laugh every time I launch an EP or an album because I fill out these big gigantic packet things that have like over 30 pages of information, whether that's lyrics to all of the songs or concept art for an image that I'm kind of going for, promo ideas, preliminary music video concepts, a release timeline, all sorts of fun things. They're fun for me to put together. They might seem silly, but you know what? At this point, it's tradition. I would say that my most well thought out project was probably Utopia because I had pretty much everything laid out about a year before the EP even came out. And even though I put in a release timeline, I always factor in hiccups too because nothing ever goes exactly according to plan. So when my grandpa and my step-grandma died right after we shot the music video for Bitter, I was still able to continue with the single release because I had everything planned so well. Even though obviously in the background my personal life was not that fun, which by the way, I'm still really grateful to all of you that supported me throughout 2019. I really don't know how I would have gotten through that year without any of you. So if you saw me through all of that, you have a special place in my heart. Number 2, Mohammed wants to know, how do you come up with a sound like Taylor Swift and how do you get a record label outside of LA or New York? Well, if you're a fan of Taylor, then you know that her sound has kind of changed a lot over time. And that's important because it's important to find your own sound. And that comes from life experience and experimentation, which you will naturally develop as you grow. And to answer your other question, while the main labels here in the US are obviously in LA, New York, and Nashville, you can still get signed outside of those cities. You do not have to live in a US major city in order to get signed to a record label, if getting signed is your goal. If it's not, then do some research, get some basic gear to record your music. I've done a video on that in the past if you want some recommendations, and then carve out your own path. Just put yourself out there and don't stop trying. You'll figure it out the more you practice and the more you research new opportunities. Number 3, Brendan wants to know, do you know how to get onto radio, whether it's FM or Sirius or Pandora? Nowadays, unless you're a major label, your best shot at getting on radio is probably Pandora because a lot of cars actually come with Pandora stations built into their radio systems now. And I also know that a lot of like grocery stores and merchant shops use Pandora as their store radio. So my advice would be to make sure that you are distributing your music to Pandora. And then if you want to try, email some of the Pandora radio station curators with your press release and see if you can get onto a station. I know there's some services online, but finding a legit one is a little hard. So if you find out any information on this, please come back and let me know in the comments because I personally don't have a whole lot of experience with getting on FM radio. It's never really been a huge focus of mine because I do know how hard it is, and a lot of stations don't play a lot of independent music, although there are plenty that do. So if you find out some information, be sure to let everybody know in the comments because that's a great resource for all of us. Number 4, Rampton wants to know, how can we get a contract from a record label? So going off of what I was saying earlier, nowadays you'll probably need to prove that you can get an audience online by yourself without a label in order to get a label, which I know sounds really counterproductive, but remember, to a label, You are a business investment. And from the label's perspective, an artist that already has a proven, established buying fan base is much less of a risk for them than signing an artist who they don't know if people are gonna buy music from. So if you really want to attract a label's attention, build your online presence so high that you can't be ignored. All right, so this next one was kind of long, so I kind of combined everything together. And so I'll just read the whole thing. Tejas wants to know, does genre of music play a role in the early stages, i.e. does making pop or hip hop give you a push while making rock maybe doesn't? What crowd should I focus on? My domestic audience who wants me to make Bollywood and Indian songs? Or should I focus on my Western audience who speaks English and comprises of friends that I've made online? Should I give Bollywood music a try or stick to my English stuff? I don't have flashy dance moves or a pretty face. What are your thoughts? Okay, so like I said, all of that kind of goes hand in hand. And the first thing I want to tell you is get that I don't have flashy dance moves or a pretty face business out of your mouth and your mind. I don't ever want to hear that again. Don't ever diminish your talent, your looks, your gifts, just because somebody else may or may not have something that you don't. If you fill your brain with thoughts like that, you will never want to do this job. For example, my speaking voice and singing voice has been criticized so many times I have lost count. And yet here I am, still annoyingly doing this music thing 12 years later. There's value in all that you are and all that you can do. We always do the best that we can with the tools we have in the moment. Also, your face is fine, so no, don't say that. Anyway, just don't knock yourself and compare yourself to others because there's value in all that you are. Secondly, you should always make the music that feeds your soul. Who cares if it doesn't sound like what's on radio or what your family says? If it doesn't feed your soul, then it's not music worth making. If Bollywood music is what feeds your soul, it represents your heritage, your culture, that's what makes you happy, then by all means, make Bollywood music. But if that's not what feeds your soul, that's equally as okay. I grew up in a town that was built for jazz, rock, alternative music. I got asked all the time, what instrument do you play? And as soon as I told them, I make music on the computer, I always got looked at like a little alien. I've been the weirdo pop musician that kind of makes music inspired by EDM and K-pop. Like that is not a combination a lot of people understand. But you know what? Over time, I've grown to appreciate my own likes and dislikes and the way I was raised and my life experiences, because all of that makes up my music, and you will too. So moral of the story, just make the music that you want to make, because that's the music worth making. Is there a lot of music in the alternative and indie scene that's not really that genre, but because it's not necessarily mainstream, it gets put there? You know what, I'm not sure. I know that Apple will sometimes slap the label of alternative on music, even though that might not be the best label for that music. I think part of the problem is the alternative crowd is very protective over what is alternative and what is not. The pop crowd generally understands that pop music is influenced by lots of different genres. It's a very unique quality about pop music. And right now in music, alternative and pop music cross over a lot. And the two genres have historically butted heads a lot. So I think that's where a lot of confusion comes from. But personally, I think that's probably just a case-by-case basis. All right, Mackenzie, you're another one that I put all your questions together. And those are, which artist would be your dream collaboration? What is one artist that you would love to write music for? And what is your favorite song that you've done? My dream collaboration will obviously be Miss Britney Spears. I would love to work with anybody, honestly. I love Blackpink, anybody from Girls' Generation, obviously. Taylor Swift, Selena Gomez, Ariana Grande. They're incredible artists from the East and the West that I would just love to work with. If I could write a song for somebody, I think I would like to write a song for probably Selena Gomez. I know a lot of the critiques that she's had over her music is very similar to critiques that I've had of mine. You know, obviously I don't know everything that she's gone through. I just think it would be an honor to have her sing one of my songs. I would love to write a song with Taylor Swift. I would absolutely love that. And of course, my pop god, Max Martin, but you know, one thing at a time. And my favorite song that I've ever done is probably Graduation, if I really had to pick one. I've said that in the past, but every few years that song just seems to take on new meanings for me personally, and I go back and listen to it and I'm like, oh, that fits exactly what I'm going through. I personally love a lot of my songs. I mean, obviously they're all special to me, but Not Afraid of My Heart is really, really special to me personally, as well as the Japanese version of Marionette. Doing that song was like going home. I would love to do all of my music in Japanese. Also, the entire Utopia project will just be very, very special to me, I think, especially as time goes on. So I love all 4 of those songs as well. If I had to choose, I know that's not just one, but that's the best I can give you. Are there things that you wish you would have done differently when making music or releasing a project? And the answer is yes, of course, there's always things I would love to do differently. If there was one thing I would do differently with Utopia, it would be to clean up the mixes a little bit more, especially now that I've learned more about super in-depth production like that. It's very low-end frequency heavy, and I'm very much aware of that. And that's because I was trying to learn and do at the same time, which is always very difficult. But I still love it just the same. I don't regret it at all. It's just something that I would probably do a little differently. The message of the songs would be the same. Everything else would be the same. It would just be clean up the mixes a little bit. Oh, and also probably back up all of my work because the entire hard drive that I had with the entire Utopia project crashed and I don't have it anymore. So always back up your work. Is uploading music to streaming devices expensive or does it cost at all? That's a great question, and yes, uploading your music to streaming services does cost a little bit of money, but it's an investment well worth it. I've done videos on this channel about DistroKid and TuneCore, which are music distribution services that you can use to get your music onto streaming platforms like Spotify and Apple Music. So if you want to check out those resources, they are available to you with the links in the description to go check them out. How do you become a popular singer? Honestly, it's practice your butt off. Use resources like this channel to discover marketing resources for yourself to help find your artist identity and figure out how you can get your music into the hands of the people who are gonna like it the most. It takes a lot of work, but it's absolutely possible. Nick wants to know, how do I get involved with the business side of the music industry if I might be interested in that profession? My advice to you would be to first figure out which aspect of the business side of the music industry you are most interested in, because there are many, many different aspects. Are you interested in music law and maybe becoming an entertainment lawyer? Do you want to be a manager, an A&R representative? Do you want to be a publicist? Are you interested in the marketing aspect? There are many options when it comes to this, so I would pick your top 3 and then go from there and watch some videos here on YouTube or just do some Google searching, attend some live streams. The more you pursue a certain avenue, the more opportunities will arise for you. What is your favorite album of all time? Ooh, I hate this question because there's so many albums that I want to pick. If I had to choose 1 or 2, depending on when you ask me, it'll probably be either Hilary Duff's Dignity or JoJo's The High Road. That's mostly due to sentimental reasons and nostalgia. I have very, very strong attachments emotionally to them. So if I'm being honest, it'll probably be one of those 2. How do I make contact with producers as an indie artist? And have I ever thought about being a manager? And the answer is no, I haven't thought about being a manager, but I keep getting asked about it. So maybe I should think about it. I love being an artist. That will probably always be my main focus, but I do love helping people out, which is why I do this channel and my TikTok and all that sort of stuff. But if you're wanting to find a producer, a great resource for you that I would recommend is Fiverr, because it's a place where you can find producers to work remotely. So you can say, hey, I can record vocals at home, but can you mix the track together for me? Just make sure that you communicate all of your needs before you buy anything, and also make sure those splits are clear. Most producers won't ask for royalty splits, but hey, you never know. It's best to get it in writing. Just make sure you communicate everything beforehand. And the last question I have for you today is, what is the process of making a music video? Making music videos is my favorite part of the music making process. You get to see your dream come to life and it's a lot of fun, but they are a lot of work as well. The first step would be coming up with a concept or a budget. Then you'll need to get props and lighting. Please get lighting. You will need more than you think you do. You'll need to get any location permissions if you're doing something outside. And nowadays, speaking of outside, you'll need to take safety precautions and make sure all that's squared away. You'll probably want to storyboard a few scenes as well. If you need a free storyboard, I've done a video about that, which there's again link in the description below, so that can be a resource for you. After that, you'll probably be filming for 1 or 2 days. It shouldn't take you any longer than that. You'll probably also need to run through things once or twice just so that everybody who's helping you kind of knows what's going on, because like I always advocate, the more prepared you are ahead of time, the easier and more fun it will be. So that is my first Q&A video on this channel. Question of the video, Do you have any more questions that you would like to ask me that maybe we could do a second Q&A video in the future? Let me know in the comments below. If you want to check out any of the video resources that I mentioned today, there are links in the description below so you can do so. And if you want to, feel free to check out my music on Spotify. And if you like me and you like what I do, consider joining me on Patreon like Maddie here for all sorts of fun rewards, including access to my YouTube calendar to see what's coming to the channel. But as always, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like on it and subscribe if you're new. I put out new videos every single Wednesday. Once again, I'm Jonathan Miller, and I will see you next time. See you later.
I am a machine, not a robot, not a operation electronically. My messages